What's up, man? You tuned into the English Lit podcast. Listen, I'm grateful. I'm thankful for everyone who's been supporting, everyone who's been commenting, everyone who's been texting me and asking me, man, when the next podcast is coming out. I had a guest lined up. Some things didn't work out. I will have a guest next week, so make sure you guys tune in, lock in. An incredible story from someone that I want you all to hear. But as I was riding home the other night from work, it was just something that was on my mind, and the word that I kept hearing was sacrifice. So let me read the definition of what sacrifice says, and what it means. Sacrifice means an act of giving up something valued for the sake of something else, regarded as more important or worthy. So as I was driving, I began to kind of reflect on my life. I don't know if I'm the only one. When you drive and your mind just sometimes go to another place. You just begin to think, you just begin to wonder, you know, Lord, am I doing enough? Could I be doing more? But the word sacrifice just kind of kept hitting me on my head. And I was having a conversation as I was riding with God. I was talking to him. I said, well, man, I realize what season that you have me in. So this season, I'm in the season of sacrifice. So what I mean by that is this, just kind of a brief story. So for 11 years, I worked for the same company. I had a great job. Um, I had a real great job, or what someone would consider a great job, great pay, a lot of perks with the job. I traveled every week. So I'm jumping from plane to plane, state to state, eating wherever I choose to eat, living in some of the best five-star hotels week after week. But one thing that I realized is this: I started to become, more dependent on the job. I felt as if the job made me. And when you get to a place like that, you know that you're headed for a place of destruction when you put your faith in something that is materialistic, something that's not permanent, something that's is temporary. So last year, I was having a conversation with my wife, and we was talking, and I was just realizing that she was talking about how much stuff that I was missing out on. I have children. I'm missing baseball games. I'm missing, school pictures. I'm missing PTA. I'm missing the whole nine, just being an absent father. Not by choice, but what a job can sometimes tie you down to feel like, hey, this is what I have to do at this moment for my family. But one thing that happened was I started to get big headed. I'm telling you the truth. I started to get above and beyond myself. I started, as the old folks say, I started smelling myself. I started feeling like, this job was my design. And I knew in the back of my mind that I had so much more to offer. I knew that I was restricted in a lot of areas, and what I had to offer wasn't even shown. So, as the conversation kind of transpired, me and my wife, we kind of say, well, hey, man, you need to make a decision. Either you're going to be home or you're going to be at work. Which one comes, first. And what I was doing was I was doing it all wrong. I was putting work before my family. I was putting work before anything and everything. Now, understand, money is important. It's essential to life. That's how we pay bills. That's how we keep groceries in the house. Man, the whole nine. But you start messing up when you start feeling like that work designs you, that makes you. It didn't make me, and I had to come back down to reality. And that's what he'll do. He'll pull you back down to reality. So after 11 years, I made a decision, which was a hard decision. A very hard decision. I never forget. I was tossing and turning about it, but I knew what was right. Have you ever felt like that? Something that's right, but you still want to do what you want to do? Like, that's sometimes not the right way. Well, it's never the right way, because doing what you want to do is never the right way. We have to do what God wants us to do. And so I knew that the best thing at that time in my life was to transition and find another job. So I started going on Indeed, and I started doing all the applications and submitting resumes and cover letters and talking to these people, that people, and eventually something came across where, hey, I could be at home. I can be more present. I can still be active. I can be that husband. I can be that father that I need to be for my family. But it was still like something buzzing on me, like, man, you really gonna give this up? Like, you got it made right now. You really ready to walk away from everything, ready to walk away from what you consider everything. And then, something hit me on my head as I was out in Minnesota in November 2024. I just knew. It was like when I came into work that morning, I knew that I had to give this up. Like, man, this is not for me anymore. I can't continue to put this over my family. And so I always try to seek counsel sometimes with decisions. I think that's just me as a person. So I called my pastor. I said, man, I got this job lined up, bro. I don't know what to do. And when you call your pastor, you sometimes think about, like, well, they gonna give you the best answer, and sometimes they'll tell you the answer where you really don't think that you want to hear, but you have to hear it. And so my pastor told me, he said, bro, you know what to do, and kind of kept it at that. And the word sacrifice just kind of started tugging on me as I was up there, and I began to think of the sacrifices of that my wife have to make when I'm not home. Some of my family just kind of helping out with the kids, the sacrifices that they have to make, of helping out just because I'm not home. So I made, at that point, at that time, I submitted my 2 weeks notice. I didn't hesitate. I shot it that Friday and I gave them 2 weeks, and I transitioned, and grateful to God, I do have another job. I'm working, everybody. But that was hard for me because it had became like a form of ideology with that job, because I felt like I needed this job. Like, if you mention my name, this job has to be tied to it, or this company has to be tied to it. So he brought me back down. He said, I'm going to show you that you don't need this job to survive. You don't need this job to feel like you're whole. I'm going to take that away from you. I'm going to give you something completely different that you've never done. Redefine your whole purpose, because everyone has a purpose in life, and it's all about you finding it and tapping into it. So I made that decision to kind of put that back, and I knew that this season of my life right now, do I have the best job right now? No, but I have a job, and I'm grateful for that. I'm simply grateful and faithful over the few things that I do have, right? But I do understand this. This is my season of sacrifice. I knew I had to give something up in order to gain something, and that's exactly what I did. And you might be in a season of sacrifice, and you might not understand why you're in that season, but I gained more than what I considered I lost. I gained back family time. I gained back love. I gained back I can make it to games. I gained back that I could participate in church activities. It was a lot of stuff that I gained, but more so I gained peace. I gained peace of mind. It was cool working that job of going place to place, but it can take a toll on you when you're thinking about home. So I gained peace back, and that's something that's way much more important than money. So right now, if anyone who's listening, you might be in a season, you don't even know why you're in that season. This season might seem odd to you. Circumstances might have happened, and it has changed the whole trajectory of your life right now. Like, man, I didn't even plan for this to happen, but it happened. So now I have to play the cards that I have, right? So if you're in that season, you might think that, why is this happening to me? And you might feel alone. Trust me, you're not alone. I promise you, God is still with you. He still has your hand. He's still guarding you and guiding you every step of the way. But you have to allow him to do that. I think sometimes as people, we tend to try to overstep him. He has to step first, and we have to follow. And I think that is what I was doing. I was trying to overstep him. I'm gonna make my own way. I'm gonna make my own steps. And what he did was he pulled the moonwalk. I had to go backwards. He pulled the moonwalk right in front of me, and I'm grateful for that because I learned from this, and I learned from those past mistakes, and I understand now why I'm in this season. So if you're in this season and you think that you're alone, you're not alone. Just adapt. In a season of sacrifice, you might have to give up some things. You might have to give up some people. You might have to give up some phone calls. You might have to give up some friendships that probably has lasted over 10 to 15 years. But when you're on a new assignment, things change. And I know that I'm on a new assignment. So I have to keep my eyes steadfast, focused, stay guided, stay planted. I don't know what season you're in right now, but I want you to comment on the Facebook post, on the YouTube. What type of season are you in? How are you choosing to adapt in this season? What are you willing to sacrifice, to give up in order to make your life better? So anybody who's listening right now might be just in a challenged mind state. Death started hitting me hard in 2024. And I just started thinking about sacrifice, because that is the toll and the pole that I was on at the time. So if you're listening to this, if you're watching this, comment. I want to know, what season are you in? And walk in that season. I thank you to everyone who's listening, everyone who's supporting, everyone who's been coming, texting me, and been watching the English Lit podcast. Thank you so much. Stay tuned for the next episode of the English Lit podcast.